after you make your ibadah, the next most important thing is your relationship with people. And so hopefully by the different categories we cover, we'll be able to take something every single week and implement it in our daily lives. What we're covering is a book, well, not the whole book, different parts of the book called Adab al-Mufrad, and that's written by Imam al-Bukhari. That is not his Sahih. That is a very different series of books compiled together. This is more based on manners and character building. And the reason we differentiate between the two is because they need to be differentiated. The Sahih doesn't contain any weak narrations, Sahih al-Bukhari, but Al-Adab al-Mufrad does, in fact, contain weak narrations. But because we're dealing with manners and people, where it's okay to use them as long as, number one, if it is weak, we mention it. And the other condition is that it's not too weak, meaning it's not rejected or there wasn't an outright liar in that chain of narrators. And the third rule, if you're going to use a weak narration, is it cannot establish something new. It cannot establish a new hukum, and it cannot establish some new ruling. Hukum means ruling. Okay, 3 conditions. Don't forget them. For those of you who want to score high on the roots at the end of the the series here. Okay, one thing we were covering, and the way I studied this was with one of my teachers, Sheikh Abu Isa Ni'matullah. He's in Europe, and he has some online classes if anybody wants to benefit from him. We were covering just a quick overview about Imam al-Bukhari himself, and we were trying to show how astute he was in learning and how amazing his memory was. And this is something very proven, that some people can have a photogenic memory like that they can memorize as soon as they look at things. Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah, who's like that, and a few others as well. And some of the scholars said, if you're having a tough time memorizing, in particular to the Quran, one of the things that you have to do is eliminate the sins from your life. They said this is Allah Azza wa Jal holding you back because of the sins that you have in your life. And then a lot of people who've done this, and some people went and they complained to a scholar in a famous story, and he says, I was in the marketplace and I wanted to show you the level of, I don't know if it's the level of how messed up we're living right now, but it's something to be, it's an eye-opener. So he says, I was in the marketplace, and as I was walking, I saw the ankle of a woman, this part. Rabbi, I guess, was lifted a little bit or whatever. He said, I saw it. This is hundreds of years ago. And he said, and from that, I found it extremely difficult to continue memorizing the Quran, because he looked at that for too long. The first glance is not against you, but we're talking about an ankle here, folks. I mean, we got some problems, right? And then we wonder why it's hard for us to wake up for Qiyam al-Layl. We wonder why it's difficult and we struggle with some of our ibadat. Well, if we really focus on removing these sins from our life, then maybe we can get closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. And it is a blessing that Allah shows us the bad things that we're doing, because what we should do is work on them, right? Don't be content with them. We mentioned about when he was very young, he went to Hajj and he stayed in the area of Mecca, and he stayed studying there for a while. And we mentioned his test with some of the scholars when he was in the area of Iraq, which got him very, very famous. What did we mention about that? Who can just quickly recap that, just so I know? Who was here last week? Okay, so some people. Yeah. What was that incident?
They showed him a bunch of narrations, but like the chain of narration was wrong, and he memorized all the mistakes that were in the chain and corrected them.
Yeah, so there was about 10 scholars who approached him, and they said, we want to see if what they say about this guy is really true, or if he's a hoax, if it's just all hearsay. So what he does is they pick 10 narrations that are well known, that some of them are very famous, and some, here and there, some rare ones. And in front of everyone, in front of a mass gathering, they ask him about if he's ever heard of these narrations in his lifetime. So the narration itself, they kept the same, but the chain by which it was reported, they mixed it up. They put a person from this generation down here, they added another guy who wasn't in that chain. They mixed up the chain. For all of us, we are keen on memorizing the statement of the Prophet ﷺ himself. These folks, obviously, when they used to, before the books were organized and systematically distributed, People memorized them. And there are still some people who did that. I remember when we were studying hadith, there was a very famous scholar from India who still had memorized all of Sahih al-Bukhari, and that's how we wound up getting our ijazah. Not in Sahih al-Bukhari, but a different one. So that still exists today. And I personally met a man who's probably your age, who's memorized Sahih al-Bukhari completely. You know, obviously he's already memorized the Quran, that's without a doubt, right? And then he's already now finishing Sahih Muslim, if he's not already done with it. So that is something very possible. So then they gave him the order, and he, every time they asked him, he said, no, never heard of that one, no, never heard of that one. And they thought finally we got him, we exposed him for this fake, the image that he's presented to the world. And after all 10 of them were done, each one of them had 10 narrations, that's 100 narrations. He asked them if they were done politely, they said yes, and then he corrected them, starting from number 1, in the order they each said it to him, and corrected every single name by which it was reported. It's very, very amazing memory. And he memorized that in that one sitting, in those moments. So he has a reputation that is, not like no other of his time. Why do we say this? Because when we're talking about the sciences of hadith and religion, of our religion, the character of a person is the most important thing we look at. So for example, that's what makes a narration trustworthy or strong. It's based on the character of the people who brought forth to us. So that Imam al-Bukhari never had any stain on his reputation, not even a question mark. Something happened to him that you ask yourself if you're willing to keep that same reputation yourself. He was on board a ship once, and this also to show you how much he cared about carrying on the life of the Prophet ﷺ and passing on this message to us, without any question mark about he himself. So he was on the boat, and it was reported that he had 10,000 gold coins with him. He was traveling on business for some journey, and he was talking to somebody, and a person overheard that he had this much money with him. Right? Now, this is 10,000 gold coins. A gold coin back then, so that you're talking about a couple $1 million here. You're just holding that in suitcases. And I want you to ask yourself if you would do this. Right? So this guy, he goes across the ship, across the boat, and he starts complaining to the captain. He says, someone stole my money. He said, someone stole my money. It's about 10,000 gold coins. Now, he used the exact number because he knows Imam al-Bukhari doesn't lie. He wouldn't say that he had 10,000 gold coins with him because his reputation was known to be so truthful. Now, you're going to get into a dispute. Now, Imam al-Bukhari could clearly prove that they're his, right? But I want you to ask yourself this. If a person went to court and they had to defend themselves from being accused of being guilty, and he's proven not to be guilty, at the end of the day, this person still went to court. There's still this question mark about him going to court. Did he actually have a good lawyer? Did the other guy have a dumb lawyer? Things like that. There's a question mark there. So Imam al-Bukhari heard the people start searching the ship looking for this man's stolen gold coins, which is claimants. Do you know what he did at this point? He took the 10,000 gold coins and he threw them into the sea. He tossed them off the ship. So by the time they got to him, they searched, he had nothing. They said, what are you talking about? You're lying, you made us go through this entire thing. And they left him as a stupid, crazy person. So this person comes to Imam al-Bukhari after the search is finished, and they kind of close it out. He says, I know you don't lie. He says, I know you don't lie. You said to that guy you had 10,000 gold coins. Where'd you put them? He said, I threw them off the ship. He said, rather than have a stain on my image, knowing that what I'm trying to do and preserve with the Prophet's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, I didn't want that to be questioned by anyone coming after me, so I threw them off. That's a couple $1 million he decided, for the sake of Allah, that I'm not going to allow anybody to question my honesty and my truthfulness, and he threw them off the ship. And that takes a lot of guts, right? And that goes to show you that remember what we talked about before when the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that the fitna of our ummah will be wealth. This guy, that is the biggest fitna that we have, generally speaking. And for him to just toss it off like that as if it was nothing is a big deal, is a very big deal. So that's just to show you how there is no dispute about the level of truthfulness that Imam al-Bukhari had, and many people reported this story about him. Okay, I need you, everyone have at least a piece of paper or something. Somebody has a small piece of paper that they could pass around. Even a sheet of paper, you could rip it like into 4. I just want a quick exercise with you guys before we start this topic of the people that we should, you know, that have rights over us. All right, it's not going to take too long because I want to cover as much as we can. Okay. So I want you to write 3 things on one side and 3 things on the other side. The first thing I want you to write on the top. What do you think the top 3 things you could do to your parents, for your parents, can be to earn their love and respect? Top 3 things. Just quickly, 1, 2 words on each line.
Like practical now.
Practical now. Now. And then on the reverse, it's actually going to be in their old age. And if your parents are not around, may Allah Azza wa Jal allow us to reunite with them in paradise, then you can just skip that. You can skip that. So not too long, please. You know, just say now as the title on one side, and then old age on the title of the other side. 3 things you can do for them now to earn their love and respect, and 3 things you believe you can do for them in their old age on the reverse. No, we're doing a small exercise of 3 things that you believe you can do now for your parents to earn their love and respect, and 3 things you could do for them in old age that you can do to earn their love and respect.
You're not ranking the 1, 2, 3.
No, just 3 things. We're not ranking. Just to kind of survey your ideas so that you understand where we're going to go with this. Because obviously the first topic that we're going to go over is a practical way to show this bit of validating to our parents. Okay, need another minute or 30 seconds? Yeah.
Overlap.
It can overlap if you want it to overlap, it can. They like foot massages now. I'm sure they'll like them later. Gotta get through it, folks. How it goes. All right. If you're done, you can pass them up. I'll at least try to cover the general topic, and then we'll cover a detailed one about mothers and fathers next week, inshallah. Let me just see something we'll have next week. Yeah, you can fold it if you don't want anybody to read it. I'll come grab them now. You're gonna give me a hard time by talking about it.
Oh, wait, now you're giving
Done? Going once, twice, up there, they pass them up already? Okay. Done? Yes? One more? Done? You don't have to be a third one, but you can just leave the third one blank. Yeah. No problem. Start upside down so nobody, I'll mix them up so none of you guys know. Alright? Alright, I'm mixing these up. We're gonna try to go through these quickly. Alright? Because it's good to help you all understand how practical this topic is, right? Alright, I don't know, I'll pick this guy. Here we go. Old. Okay, we'll start with now. Now, clean the house without asking. Be more involved with Islamic community. Keeping family ties intact. Old, keeping family ties, helping them financially, teaching the next generation about Islam and family values. Okay, old age. Here, we'll start with this one. Okay, now, use a respectful tone, be polite, express gratitude, have patience with them, have patience in old age, spend time with them, care for them, make sure they know you are, make sure they know of your gratitude for them. Okay, a lot of these are, yeah. Top 3 things when they grow old. All right, to be successful in the dunya, this is now. Be a good Muslim for the akhirah. Obey what they say. Later on, care for them and tend to their needs. Be a good Muslim, provide for the family. Help them out with tasks before they ask for help in their own work. Learn about the religion and the deen. Have good manners towards them. Okay, old age, take care of them in your own home instead of a living house, in a living home somewhere alone, living somewhere alone. Have grandchildren for them. You gotta have people to play with, you know. Give them gifts. Yeah, give them gifts, all right. Old age. The 3rd thing, this is for now, all right. Fulfill and maintain 5 pillars. Become a doctor. Marry young. Yeah, you gotta make them happy. All right, old age. Visit them often and call them, take them for Umrah, raise children in the name of Islam, so they could see, you know, their work continually. Okay, take them to Hajj. This is now. Be respectful and obedient. Speak nicely and respectful. Take them to Hajj later again. It's 2 times we're doing them here, okay? Live with them now, live with them and support them. Hopefully they live with you, not you're still living with them. But listen to them and value them, because this guy's really trying to figure out the finances there. All right, now, attention, love, and respect. Older, wealth, support, and care. Faster, Quran memorization, this is for now. College graduation. Find the right life partner. Failure. Future. It's definitely not a girl's name, I'll tell you that one. It says, dua and make hajj for them. Wait a minute. Find it. Man, for them? What do you mean for them? They should do it with you. Were you thinking you got the time, date, and stamp when they're not going to make it already? I mean, unless they're not around anymore, you should take them to do it, not you do it for them. Anyway, where are we here? This one doesn't say which one. Anyhow, help them with daily chores, pray for them, listen and take advice from them, accompany them later on, provide for them, and something for them, pray for them. Okay, we got to move a little bit quicker because I don't want to take a little time here, but you know, I want to show you guys just practically when we cover this. Now, top 3 things, speak kindly to them, do not scream, gently. Do good in school, keep practicing Islam later on, take physical care of them, take financial care of them, spend time with them. Okay, good. All right. Okay, listen to their advice, become knowledgeable in the deen, go to medical school. Take care of them financially. Don't send them to a nursing home. Go to medical school again. Again. You notice, but I want to show you guys something. This is like the college mentality. You don't realize that most of the things you guys are saying, and I'll show you how we have to kind of change the mentality. It's not a wrong mentality. I just want to show you that how much your parents care for you is that they just want to see you be successful. You see that? And everything you're saying here, for the most part, it's things that you need to do with your own life. You see, it's just something quite interesting. This is just to show you how much care that your parents have for you. That you know that you doing something well for yourself is going to make them happy. Which is quite, it's something very, very unselfish for them to do. And that just shows how much they care about you. Okay, anyhow, we'll continue to show that now. You stole the idea. Foot massage, all right, fine. Keep cleaning around the house and myself. This person is dirty and their parents are not happy with them. They're using the minimum, shower once Friday. Okay, keep good grades. See, I'm telling you. Old, repay them for their lifelong deeds to me. Lead the prayers. Lead prayers. Foot massage again. All right. Good stuff here. All right. We're gonna see something now. Be nicer to my siblings. Yes, folks, really do. Do chores without being asked more. Read Quran aloud at home more. You see, again, you see what we're talking about? Look after my old age, look after my siblings' education. Take care of my family that are alive. Take care and spend as much time as I can with them. Okay, now, be obedient, take care of my sisters, help daily chores, take care of them, old age, take care of my sisters, take them to Hajj or Umrah. Quickly, we got maybe two more. Now, what would make them happy? Graduate, get a job, learn, and become more wise. Give them grandkids. Assure them I'll be okay when they're gone by showing them good character. Have no money issues. Okay, 3 things now. Okay, pray, spend time with them, take care of my siblings, show them I am responsible. Later on, buy them a house. Oh, that's nice. Okay, be responsible for them in terms of health and finance, etc. Take them to Hajj and Umrah. Okay, so there's the now. Get a great job, pay them back as much as possible, clean more, help mom. Take that later on, take them on a vacation, visit frequently, have grandkids that are good. Sometimes you don't have that choice if they're good. And have grandkids. Right? Sometimes they're just little devils, but that's okay. Number 3, sit with them. This is now, sit with them during dinner. Well, that's very sweet, actually. I like that. Sit with them during dinner, take their advice on life matters, listen to them, talk about their day. This guy's really read the book, huh? Later, take over the chores around the house. Oh, we're not doing that now. Let's hey, I'll sit with you, but we're not cleaning right now. It's not my time. Number 2, take them on a vacation. And number 3, sit with them daily and also listen to them. Okay, why am I saying this? Is because Imam al-Bukhari, he started this chapter on birr al-walidayn. This is the first thing that he opens up al-adab al-mufrad with, and he starts out with the chapter title. He says the part of the verse in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ankabut, in verse number 8, where he says, well, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا, that Allah Azza wa Jalla has enjoined upon man kindness to his parents. And here's something very, very interesting. I want you to now take a step back and know that when Imam al-Bukhari would put a chapter title, would be typically his fiqh position. Okay, he wasn't only a muhaddith. He wasn't only a person who mastered the science of hadith or naqd, as you will, millions of hadith that he memorized. But rather, he was also faqih. And in Sahih al-Bukhari, different from this book, he would write chapter headings. And what has been said about going down with the knees first in salat. And what has been said about saying the basmalah out loud. For example, you see, and then he'll provide a narration. And that's him telling you his fiqh opinion. So the hadith is one thing, and this is what the scholars will help you differentiate. Us as Muslims, we are majbureen, we are bound. Our religion is bound by the statements of the Prophet and not the opinions of Imam al-Bukhari. I will tell you though, that everybody tries to claim that Imam al-Bukhari is from their madhab and all this sweet, interesting stuff. It is, in all fairness, his rulings are closest to the Shafi'i madhab. That is all fairness. In the Sahih al-Bukhari, it's about 70% of his fiqh opinions. Some scholars have outlined that they do agree, and mostly in line with that particular madhab. That doesn't change anything, right? It doesn't really matter, because alhamdulillah, today, we live in a day and age where we just look for what has the strongest opinion, what has the strongest source backing that opinion, and that's what we go with, right? Alhamdulillah, and that's a blessing. Some people overseas, they do something a little different where they follow a particular systematic school of thought, and that's just for the organizational purposes of the country, right? Because practically speaking, they'll also branch outside of those different opinions, which should be the case, okay? So, sometime, and then he follows up with this hadith, that Abu Amr al-Shaybani, he's pointing and he said, the owner of this house, and he's pointing to the house of Abdullah. Whenever you see the person Abdullah in hadith mentioned without any last name, it's always referring to Ibn Mas'ud. Never forget that. In the science of hadith, if they say, and it's been reported by Abdullah, it is not Abdullah bin Abbas, it is not Abdullah bin Abi Bakr, it is not Abdullah bin Umar, it is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, okay? So he says, the owner of this house said, he told him a narration, he said, I asked the Prophet ﷺ, which action does Allah love best? You heard this hadith many times, right? Which action does Allah love best? So many companions asked the Prophet this. Here, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, as-salah ala waqti, that the Prophet, the prayer on its prescribed time. And you know one thing I will say, that if you hear the adhan coming in and you see that it's time for salah on your phone, and you stop what you're doing and you go pray, I am telling you, you feel so much more relaxed. Then the idea that you're sitting there, oh, just one more paragraph, one more this, one more that, you gain a sense of anxiety. I'm telling you, and I know people after me who now, they see the time has come into for salah, and they say, all right, let me pause, let me go do what I'm going to do. Even if you're watching a movie, even if you're doing anything, just get up and pray the salah on its time, and you'll find that your day is a lot more organized and has barakah in its time. He said, then what, Ya Rasulullah? He said, then kindness to your parents, birrul walidain. He said, then what, Ya Rasulullah? He said, jihad fi sabilillah, jihad in the way of Allah. And then he said, he told me about these things. If I kept asking him more and more, he would have told me more. So here's something interesting. There are a lot of narrations of what's the best thing I can do, right? In one narration, the Prophet ﷺ, he responded and he said, smile. The best thing you can do is show a smile to your Muslim brother. And another narration, a female companion asked, he said, to be an obedient wife. To be an excellent and obedient wife. Okay, so then in another narration, the Prophet ﷺ, he answers and he says, the best act is the best thing you could do is acts of charity. Donate money. And so the scholars said, how are all of these the best acts? Some of them said there's a time and place for every act. For every action, there's a time and place for it. That you are in the moment, and for the best action to be happening is dependent on your circumstance, right? So if you're at home, and maybe the best thing that you could possibly do is birrul walidain, kindness to your parents. Right? And some of the scholars said also, the Prophet ﷺ, he would answer an individual based on what they needed most. So if a person who was very grumpy all the time came and said, Ya Rasulullah, tell me what's the best deed to do. So just smile a lot. This person needed that. Right? There's some person who would not be maybe a little loosey-goosey with their salat, praying on time. And the Prophet ﷺ says, the prayer at its time. Maybe there was a wife who was very ungrateful to her husband and not showing appreciation, or would complain a lot. And he would say that a nice and obedient wife. So it was for the person or somebody who was very stingy with money. He would tell them, donate and show acts of charity. So it was for the time and place and the person. And you know yourself best. You should, I don't like these kind of questions when you're sitting around the family and you ask them, for example, what are the bad things that you see in me? Some people take offense to that, right? It's because then they weren't expecting a full list, right? They were thinking one thing, two things. You're lazy. You don't get up. You don't take out the garbage on your own. These are the things you're thinking, right? But then you sit there and they actually bring you the full list, and you're like, no, I'm not like that. Well, if you can't accept the advice, then don't ask for it, right? So I like to do these things. If you can figure out a way to do them with your own family members in kind of like a secret kind of way without anybody being offended, right? Like one exercise I like and I would recommend is that you can write a person's name and just one thing you think they can improve it, right? Just write it. And then you crumble it up and you put it in a box with that person's name, they mix them up and they only read them to themselves, not out loud, so they're not embarrassed, right? Because your family knows you best. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِكُمْ. He said, the best of you are the best of you to your family members. Another riwayah, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِنِسَائِكُمْ. And best of you are the kindest to their womenfolk. And by the way, the one with the womenfolk is a little bit more interesting, and you know why? Because it shows you that women, in particular, are very emotional, if you will, and they need someone who's very caring around them, somebody who talks to them and discusses things with them. A guy, I'm not saying one is better than the other, because a guy could harbor feelings for so long that he just blows up one day, and had he just talked about it for a while, it would have never got to that point. But so everyone has its pros and cons, alhamdulillah, but it's interesting that you do need a level of kindness when you're dealing with the women, meaning your sisters, your mothers, and your daughters in the future, inshallah. So that's something to keep in mind. So I want you to never forget this. You should memorize this. Birr al-walidain has two factors. Two. The first is obedience, and the second is kindness. And one actually is drawn more towards one parent, and the other is drawn more towards the other. Obedience is drawn more towards the father. Obedience is drawn more towards the father. And kindness is drawn more towards the mother. Right? And it winds up becoming a beautiful system, as the scholars have said. And birr, you might say, okay, well, how much? Right? We got a list here. Got a list. What all this nice stuff that we just compiled, how much do I have to show them? How do I do this excellence towards parents? Bir comes from two letters, the ba and the ra. And it also means something very vast and wide open. That's why the Arabs have a statement. They would say, طلع برا. That means, who's the Arabic here? That means he went outside, right? Or rah barra, he went outside. Where's outside? Just outside. It was a vast open land, and that's when they said he went out into the open. And that shows you that the way that the word itself is designed, Arabic has a meaning in the letters itself, all right? It shows that the amount of kindness you can actually show them is unlimited. It's actually unlimited. It's what they expect. I want you to never forget that. It is what your parents expect of you. If they expect you to visit them once a week, once you're married, you visit them once a week. If they expect you to call them twice a week, you call them twice a week. If it's what they expect from you, if they expect your 3 boys or 2 boys that you will eventually split these bills amongst yourselves and you'll handle them, then you figure that out, right? This is something that the children, they'll sit together, the boys in particular, that are responsible for their family financially. If you can figure that out, okay, then great. Okay, so it comes from birr, which means to be something vast and wide open. So here's something very interesting. The more that you can show them to reduce their expectations, the better off you are. Right? I'm not saying to trick the system here. Man, time flies. How is it going? Okay. All right. I always like to leave some time for Q&A, but I want to show you guys how important this is. The obedience in your parents cannot overstep something that Allah says. Other than that, you should be listening to them 100% of the time. Right? And it comes for al-ma'ruf. Al-ma'ruf comes from urf, meaning what is known. What is known? Let me give you a quick example. If your mother said, I'm only going to be pleased with you if you wake up every morning and you drink Nesquik chocolate milk, 1 glass. You get what I'm saying? Sounds funny. Now here's the interesting thing. You actually don't have to obey them. That's not birr al-walidain. But you will be rewarded if you did. Because did they command you anything haram? Well, I don't know how much sugar's in it. And then the health people are going to get involved. You know, what if it was sugar-free and it was organic? You know, give me one of these drinks, right? I don't know. Seltzer water. Something. I honestly, don't think too much into it. You guys are college students. You guys, your brains keep on. One of my point is if it was something that wasn't unhealthy for you, and they said, I want you to drink this drink every single day, you will be rewarded if you do it. But that is not part of birr al-walidain. Birr al-walidain is something ma'ruf, something understood in our time and place. But it can vary. Why do I say that? Because if your parents were born and raised overseas, and they came here, you have to figure out what birr al-walidain is for them. So if it means kissing their hand, you kiss their hand. If it means kissing their forehead, you kiss their forehead. If it means getting the door for them, you get the door for them. These are things that you have to now understand. This is birr al-walidain. Not getting your doctorate degree. You know that they care about that for your success, guys. But that is not birr al-walidain. That's for you. That's for you to be successful. That's for you to make it through this dunya. Hopefully helping people should be your main cause. And then you get financially rewarded for it while doing that, right? But that's the things that you have to understand. What are the things that you have to do for them? Some of the scholars said, maybe it's making breakfast for them every morning. You serious? You see, these are things that we didn't think about. What are you doing for them? The house chores are your responsibility. You're not doing that for them. That's what they made you. You think they hire a maid, they'll have kids. Right? We figured this out. The Americans didn't. Well, I mean, we're American, but the non-Muslims didn't. I'll say it that way. They get a dog. And that's a problem, because now they clean after the dog. The dog's never going to clean the house. We're going to clean the house. That's what we're here for. You haven't done them any favors by cleaning the house, guys. I'm sorry. Just put this list through the shredder. The foot massage, maybe. Must be tough. That's tough. But you got to do it if that's what they want, right? So, but this is what we're trying to say. 99% of the things we suggested here were things for you. And they will be proud of you by doing them. Alhamdulillah, they'll be so happy at night. But what are the things you're doing for them? When was the last time you got the door for your mother? When was the last time you asked your mother, hey, do you need a ride to go somewhere? I'll take you shopping. Oh, you're going? Oh, alhamdulillah, I got the house to myself. That's not how it works. This is what we're trying to do. Oh, what, you need a ride? Hold on, let me see if I can get you an Uber and I'll get a female one. And you just scroll through the people. This is not how it works. This is the things that you're putting in effort towards your parents, right? It's the expectation they have to what you're contributing towards them, okay? And I will say the following disclaimer. This is a very big disclaimer. For some parents, some of us do have tough parents. That's a fact. Some of us do have tough parents. That doesn't alleviate us from birr al-walidain. That just means everybody has a different fitna. Some people have a fitna towards a girl that's not halal for them. Some people have a fitna towards a guy that's not halal for them. Some people have a fitna towards wealth that's not halal for them. Does that mean they can go out and steal it? Does that mean they can go out and fornicate? The answer is no. Does that mean that because you have parents who, unfortunately, in your view, by the way, because we took their side, by the way, I'm sure there's another side to that pancake. But I'll tell you right now, if we're going to take your view and say, yeah, know what, we really got some tough parenting here and they're hard to deal with, that doesn't matter because you just can't get new parents. It doesn't work that way. And you have to figure out how to make it work. You have to figure out how to make it work. Okay? Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in Surah Al-Isra, verse 23 through 24, just two things I wanna just mention. When he said, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِرِّ الْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. That Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, and He said that Allah has decreed that you worship none except Allah and be kind to your parents. This combination of what? The scholars said, one of the scholars, I think it was Sufyan ibn Uyayna, I'll see here, let me just check. One of the scholars, anyhow, I can't find who said it. I'll probably look it up later. But one of the scholars in giving tafsir of this verse, they said when Allah said this,
And then he said, after worshiping Allah, then the Prophet ﷺ, and then your parents, they said, if you have prayed your salah and you have not made dua for your parents afterwards, you have not done this, you have not fulfilled this verse, this command by Allah Azza wa Jal. And also then in the following verse, in the same verse, Allah Azza wa Jal says, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍ. And that's just, don't even say to them. That means you can't even display a sign of being upset. They said that goes just the changing your tone, just your facial expression. By the way, we are all 100% guilty of this. 100. I'm telling you, we live in this generation. We are the XYZ, me, whatever letter they gave us now. We don't know. Because it's the baby boomers claiming we're this and we're that. They don't like us. We don't like them. But it's okay. What we're trying to tell you, I don't care what classification they gave us. We are 100% guilty of this. Every single one of us. What? Even they said, if the skin color of your face changed, some scholars mentioned, tafsir of this verse. Just to show you how much you have to hold back. Just smile. And just like, not one of those evil Chucky smiles, all right? We're talking, just go with it. You want to take out all that garbage? Right now. I'm just going to go, right? Don't be sarcastic, unless that's, they like that, right? Unless it's funny, and that's okay, right? You don't want to be dry, yes. No, right? You're not a robot either. You have a personality, okay? But you know if you've upset them. You know if they're talking to you in a different tone, how to not respond. This is the way of a Muslim and a Muslimah. It is hard. If you can figure out bir al-walidain, let me say this, you don't have to come to any other classes. You're done. That's how hard this is. This is how hard this is. You don't realize it. If you can figure out how to master bir al-walidain, I'm telling you, you can just close the book and go home. That's how hard it is. It's that difficult. And you don't realize it because you think it's just that they're not ghadban alayh, like they're not angry with you and they're asking Allah bad things for you. 0.99% of our parents won't do that. But this is not about that. It is bigger than that. It's trying to show these acts, not waiting for them to say anything to you, right? Things like that. The chores are one thing, right? Doing good in school is one thing. You memorize the Quran, that's for you. That's not for your parents, right? Unless you really, really read the hadith that your parents get to wear crowns on the Day of Judgment, and you're like, oh, I want my parents to have those crowns. That's one thing. Because I usually know parents who want the crown, and they're sticking the kid in the memorization school, right? And I've talked to some parents. I'm like, oh, mashallah, you're doing like akhi, you know about the crown? I'm like, yeah, I know about the crown. My kid doesn't care to wear it, I get a crown. So she said no. But I'll tell you, I get a crown, it's a cool crown. She says, yeah, it's okay. Anyhow, she got me the little toy crown. So one thing you recognize is about how much effort is involved here, how much effort you actually have to put in. And the tarbiyah is the parent's job. The tarbiyah is the parent's job. We know this very much so. And the Prophet ﷺ said that very clearly. He said that every child is born upon the fitrah, and it is his parents who change his religion to be a Jew, a Christian, or a magistrate. And then this is something that we know very much so, that this tarbiyah, what they're doing for you, even, and I want to say this for one part here, alhamdulillah, everyone, for the most part, is Muslim. So you may not have had the best upbringing. That might be the case. And don't come to me with those problems afterwards, because look, I'm not a therapist. I'm going to tell you straight up, like at the end of the day, you still have to give your parents bir al-walidain. It's how it works, guys, right? And you'll be rewarded for that. You cannot be upset that they didn't put you in the private school. You can't be upset that you grew up in this neighborhood. You can't be upset that they hit you and they were ignorant in the religion and they shouldn't have hit you that way. Really, I mean, you have to just forgive them, don't hold grudges, and you move on. This is the way you're going to rebuild that relationship for those people who are in a tough spot. And if you're not in that tough spot, then boy, do you owe them a lot. And then to end on this final note, and we will see, we will regroup next week, but we'll see if anybody has any questions. Here's something very interesting. I want you to never forget this. You memorize this. You can never pay them back. You memorize that. You commit it to memory. You don't tattoo it. That's haram. But I'll tell you, put it in the on the background of your laptop. You can never repay them back. Not financially, not with any deed you could possibly do. And Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran about your mothers, وَهْنٌ عَلَى وَهْنٍ. They gave birth to you while they were weak and in weakness. That you can't even repay your mother for the one contraction she had while she was pregnant with you. Let alone, well, I mean, you sit there, you collect all this money, said, here, finally. Nope, not even that. And that's to show you that don't even think that you can ever repay them back, but you never stop trying. You never stop trying. And you hope that that end result, you will see on the Day of Judgment. There is a gate in paradise specifically for people who achieved this. Bir al-walidain. Specifically. If you can imagine that Allah mentions after ta'at Allah, that worshipping Allah, He mentions your parents as the first of creation. Can you imagine what that gate's going to look like, folks? Right? You want to be called and to be asked to enter from any gate you want. So focus on that as much as you can. And inshallah, we'll cover in some practical sense some details about the mother, father, and then we'll obviously go into siblings, uncles, and friends and family, inshallah. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
So in this generation, there's always like that saying where you shouldn't really care what people think about you, but obviously when it comes to your reputation, there's a certain level to which you should care.
Yeah.
But what do you think that saying like you shouldn't care what people think about you applies as a Muslim to a certain degree, or no?
You know, I think what we need to do, it's very different when you see some of these questions get answered online. We live in a non-Muslim society. And because we live in a non-Muslim society, it is required upon us to give da'wah. That is wajib. That's one of the conditions that we have living here. People think that it's just, pay taxes. It's not how it works. You also have to be figuring out how you're giving da'wah indirectly on your day-to-day life, right? So you answer that by saying that if you carry yourself out in a certain way, we want people to see and think and see what the Muslims are like. So from that aspect, then yes. But if it's that I'm going to base my decisions, I'm not going to go to that bridal shower. If I don't go, they're all going to say, she's prune, she's not going to go, she won't dress this way, I'm not going to go. That's not what you should dictate your life. So in some aspects, it's no, you shouldn't care about what people think. You should care about your priorities and what Allah asked of you. And the other in retrospect, you should care about what society sees of you. For example, not that that you conform to how they want you to appear, but you actually show them that we have honest characteristics. We don't curse. We're not people who have staring problems. And you got some neighbors who just one of these. You'll see. You're not there yet, but you'll see. But I'm just telling you, right? So these are things that you should care. One side yes, the other side no. So it's a kind of both. It's a mixed bag answer. Allahu a'lam. Anyone else? All right. We will do a little mini midway cahoots probably after maybe the second or third, once we're done with the fathers, so that we could kind of just put this topic to rest and go over some practical things to make sure we're all on the same page with what we're learning here. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لكم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.